Hi everyone, welcome to the Potter's Wheel Ministries. My name's Hippolyte Nazio. Now, before there's a whole lot of controversy on the title of my sermon, let me explain a little bit. The title of my sermon is "Be a Nobody." All right. Now, just saying the title, I could hear people saying, "Man, did you hear him tell us not to be a nobody? That preacher man on the internet told us to be a nobody. I worked hard to get where I'm at. I'm a somebody now. I don't want to be a nobody." Let me finish my sermon. I'll let you know. I'll tell y'all what I mean by that. Um, Today, God gave me a word, and it's kind of close to home, uh, home for me. And I'm gonna start off with a song. You ever heard the song "Casting Crowns" by Nobody by Casting Crowns? Um, it's like this. It says, "Why you ever chose me has always been a mystery. All my life I've been told I belong at the end of the line, with all the other not quites, with all the never get it right. But it turns out that they are the ones you were looking for all this time. Cause I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody." And it goes on from there. All about somebody who saved my soul. Well, that's not how it's sung. I don't sing very well. I apologize for that. But I'm going to start with the definition of nobody. See, a nobody is a person that has no importance or authority. Now, y'all probably wondering why I would bring that song up. Well, the reason I bring the song up is because in the Bible, many times, I'm going to read a few of them here where they actually try to make Jesus, they try to make people believe Jesus was a nobody. You know, he wasn't of importance, that he had no authority. They question all the things that he said, and you know, that's basically question what you do when you're talking to somebody that isn't of importance to try to get their to try to have them prove their importance. You question them, and you know, they tried to make Jesus. They tried to make people believe Jesus wasn't of any importance or authority or had any authority. Um, and they did that because he didn't walk around with the righteous people of that time. He walked around with the sinners, the ones that they considered nobodies or not of importance. They were just there. You know, they wouldn't. They were nobodies. Um, they even went as far as calling God a demon, telling God he had a demon. Um, they crucified him because he walked with sinners and because he was he wasn't agreeing with the law that they knew. It was different, and he wasn't. It wasn't that he was trying to um to discontinue their law or whatever. He was trying to add to their law to make them understand that love is important. That you need their law was the old way of Moses, and the old law of Moses was pretty blunt and kind of solid. And it wasn't it wasn't based just on love. And what Jesus was trying to do was he was trying to add to that law and trying to teach them love. And a lot of these people, high priests, Jews, some of the Jews, high priest Jews, and Pharisees. I'm trying to think of everybody. All of these Pharisees, all of these people, they were fighting against Jesus about it because they wanted to stick with their old law. They wanted they didn't want change. They didn't want change. Now they didn't realize that change was good at that point in time. So if they would have changed, there probably wouldn't have been as many problems as they have in this world with religion. All they had to do was change. But they didn't like change. Change was an issue for them. And that's where they didn't want to change. You know? And Jesus really wasn't trying to change them a whole lot. He was just trying to teach them how to love. And these people didn't want change. He was trying to teach them how to forgive. These people didn't want to do any of these things. They didn't want to change. They wanted to stick to their same old laws that got them where they were at sinning to begin with. You know, they worked by these laws, and they punished people that sinned, and they overlooked people. They had that stuck up nose, overlooked people that were righteous, and those people sinned. You know, Jesus proved that when they wanted to stone the lady. You know, these people of importance was around this lady ready to stone her, and she was a whore, a prostitute. They picked up the stones, and Jesus told them, goes, he who is without sin cast the first stone. Now all these people of importance about to stone this lady, all of them drop their stone and walk away. You know, I mean, he proved to them that they did sin, you know, but still they didn't want to change. They didn't want to look over these people that weren't of importance, that they seen sin, and you know they seen these people sin. They didn't want to see them. Um, they didn't want to see them. They didn't want to have them part of. They didn't want to love on them because they were sinners, and they were high. I guess you could say high priest or of importance of that time. There was well, might have been slaves, or I'm just saying they were people that weren't that these religious people of that time didn't see as important. You know. Now, first verse I'm going to start with. Let me get my glasses real quick. The first Bible section I'm going to start with, and I kind of struggle with my Bible verses, so these might not be the best Bible verses to explain what they did with Jesus, but these are the ones that kept coming to mind, or kept coming to me. So these are the ones that I'm using. They will come and tell me. Evidently, God said, "Hey, look, these Bible verses are important. Use these. Quit looking for other ones. Use these." And these are the ones that kept coming to mind. So these are the ones that I used. So I'm going to start with John 8:39 through 59. I'm going to go ahead and read that for y'all. All right, it's a dispute over whose children Jesus appoints or opponents are, the ones that So in 9:39 through 59 starts off. Abraham is our father, they answered. If you were Abraham's, and Jesus says, if you were Abraham's children, then you would do what Abraham did. As it is, you are looking for a way to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. Abraham did not do such things. You are doing the works of your own father. Jesus said to them, if God were your father, you would love me, for I have come from God. I have not come from my own. God sent me. Why is my language not clear to you? Because you are unable to hear what I say. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He has murderer from he was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native tongue, for he is a liar, and the father of lies. Yet because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. See right there is saying that they saying that Jesus is telling them, I'm telling y'all the truth and y'all don't believe me. I'm gonna stop right there for a second. Basically, I mean that still goes for today. People could tell you the truth, and we're a people that live on census. In the world has always been like that. We're people that live on census, meaning if we can't see, hear, feel, or touch for ourselves, we we don't believe it. It's not the truth. Um, but God says right there, yet because in John 8:45, yet because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Still today, just like back then, people could tell us the truth. But because we didn't see it, we didn't hear it, we don't believe it. You know? And a lot sometimes if it didn't happen to us, we don't believe it. And that's where the world was like that back then, and it's still like that today. Jesus was out there, he was telling them the truth, and they didn't believe him because they couldn't see what Jesus seen with God. They couldn't hear what Jesus seen, what Jesus heard with God, from God. You know, they couldn't comprehend these things because Jesus was able to hear God, he was able to see God, he was God, you know? So they couldn't believe it because even though they had all these prophecies about Jesus, they couldn't believe it Jesus because they didn't see the Holy Spirit get come down on Mary, and Mary was pregnant. They didn't they didn't see Jesus, God talk to Jesus, or God run Jesus away from areas that would hurt him. They didn't see any of these things. These things didn't happen to them, so they couldn't believe it. It was hard for them to believe because it happened to Jesus, but it didn't happen to them. Okay, I'm going to continue reading. Can any of you prove me guilty of sin? If I am telling the truth, why don't you believe me? Whoever belongs to God hears what God says. The reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God. So right there, what Jesus is saying is, if they really belong to God, if they really believe in God, fully believe in God, you know, and they prayed and they stayed faithful to God, they would have they could have spoke, they could have talked, they could have prayed to God and asked him, "Hey, look, who's this Jesus guy?" You know, and God would have told him, "It's my son." It even in the Bible, in one part of the Bible, I don't remember where it's at, and I wish I would have looked it up. When Jesus gets baptized, John the Baptist baptizes Jesus, and the skies open up and the dove comes down. The Spirit speaks and says that this is my son. It says Jesus is my son, and I'm proud of him and stuff like that. Some people seen that, but these people that are condemning Jesus didn't see it. You know, you could have 100 people behind you saying this is what happened, but you got 500 people in front of you that's going to say that didn't that we didn't see it, so we don't know that it actually happened. And that's where people start judging other people. You know, not only do they judge the person that it happened to, they judge the people that are back behind him, backing them up. All right, now keep reading. All right. So the Jews answered him, "Aren't we right in saying that you are a Samaritan and demon possessed?" So right there, they're saying that Jesus is demon possessed because he's telling the truth about God and spreading God's word, and they calling him demon possessed. Jesus says, "I am not possessed by a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. I am not seeking glory for myself, but there is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Very truly I tell you, whoever obeys my word will never see death." At this they exclaimed, "Now we know that you are a demon possessed. Abraham died, and so did the prophets. Yet you say that whoever obeys your word will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham? He died, and so did the prophets. Who do you think you are?" Jesus replied, "If I glorify myself, my glory means nothing. My Father, whom you claim as your God, is the one who glorifies me. Though you do not know him, I know him. If I say I did not, I would be a liar like you. But I do know him and obey his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. He saw it and was glad. You are not yet 50 years old," they told Jesus, "and you have seen Abraham?" Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, before Abraham was born, I am." At this they picked up stones to stone him, but Jesus hid himself, slipping away from the temple grounds. So Jesus was in the temple, and these people are questioning him. You know, they question everything he's trying to do, and they're trying to call him a sinner. You know, they're trying to call him. They're trying to make him a nobody. They're trying to make him a nobody. Right? And again, in John 9:13-41, they brought to the Pharisees the man who had been blind. That's when they I'm not going to read this whole passage. I'm just going to paraphrase it a little bit. Um they brought that was when Jesus healed the blind man. Um and what happened was he put the mud on his eyes. He spit in the dirt. He put the mud on his eyes. Let me make sure I'm right on that. Yeah, he made some mud with his saliva and put it on the man's eyes. So the Pharisees investigate that healing because they wanted to prove God a nobody. Some of the Pharisees said this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. See, Jesus did that on the Sabbath. And that was the issue that they had, was that he healed on the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is supposed to be a day of rest. They turned to the blind man and they said, "What have you to say about him? It was your eyes he opened." The man replied, "He is a prophet." You know, and they kept questioning the blind man. And hold on one second. They questioned him again, and he answered them, I have told you already, and you do not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? Then they hurled insults at him and said, you are this fellow's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from. The man answered, now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, but he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will. Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. To this they replied, you were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us? And they threw him out. All right. Now it goes on. Jesus talks about spiritual blindness. Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, and when he found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? Who is he, sir? The man asked. Tell me, so that I may believe in him. Jesus said, you have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you. The man said, Lord, I believe, and he worshiped him. Jesus said, for judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind. All right. Now Jesus is what Jesus did there was when he healed the blind man, he was showing, yeah, it's a miracle, but he's showing people that, you know, if they open their eyes towards him, to him, it says right here, for judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind. So what I think he's saying is that the ones that are sinners, he comes to preach his word to sinners. Now anybody who says they're not sinning, they already sinning. They don't sin, you're already sinning, because everybody sins. So what he's saying is he was here for judgment. He's here for judgment. He has come into this world so that the blind will see. Anybody who's looking to follow him, anybody who's looking to believe in him, will see. They will see God. They will see the miracles and stuff like that. But those who aren't willing to see him or believe in him, they're going to be blind to God. Now next passage I'm going to read is John 19:1-16. And that is, as soon as I find it, I apologize for the delay. That's Jesus being sentenced to be crucified. Okay. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. They were mocking Jesus. And they slapped him in the face. Once more, Pilate came out and said to the Jews gathered there, Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him. Now, this is Pilate saying, I find no reason to to charge him. He did nothing wrong. When Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." Okay. Now, as soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify! Crucify!" So what they're doing there is that they're talking amongst a whole bunch of all the other Jews and stuff like that, knowing these people are going to follow them because they're of importance, yelling, "Crucify! Crucify!" But Pilate answered, "You take him and crucify him. As for me, I find no basis for a charge against him." The Jewish leaders insisted, "We have a law, and according to that law, he must die, because he claimed to be the Son of God." They didn't believe him. They didn't believe him. They didn't. They didn't believe in him, and they didn't believe that he was the Son of God. You know, when Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid, and he went back inside the palace. He asked Jesus, "Where do you come from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. "Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Don't you realize I have the power either to free you or to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anybody who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat at the at a place known as the Stone Pavement. It was a day of preparation of the Passover. It was about noon. "Here is your king," Pilate said to the Jews. But they shouted, take him away, crucify him." "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified. Okay, so they crucified Jesus because he was trying to make a change. Now these days, now they didn't know where he came from. They didn't see it. They didn't hear it. They didn't feel it. They didn't touch it. They had no sense of it. You know, and like back then, even now, we're people of sense. We have to have a sense of something in order to believe it. You know, see, I believe back then the devil was more in works in it than the Bible actually says. You know, because these people were fighting against Jesus, and Jesus was just trying to help them. You know, the devil will try to make you feel like a nobody. He will distract you and try to keep you away from God's word. I have a perfect example today when I was finishing up my sermon. I'm trying to close up on it. I'm getting the Bible verses together and everything, the Bible passages together, and I'm trying to close up on my sermon. And I started struggling with it. I got distracted and I found a bunch of other things, and I was supposed to record this 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago, and I'm recording it now. You know, my wife, actually told me something. Um, I told her, I said, she asked me if I finished it. My wife asks me every time I do a video. She goes, "Did you record your video?" I tell her yes or no. So I ask her, and she asked me. She goes, "Did you record your video?" I said no. She goes, "What's the matter?" She knew something was wrong because I didn't record my video. I enjoy doing this. I like doing it because I do it for God. And I was aggravated about some things this morning with work and everything. And she asked me, she goes, "Are you okay?" And she tells me, she goes, "Calm down. I know you're probably aggravated." So I calmed down. I did. And I started, I was doing some other stuff. And I started thinking on be a nobody. Be a nobody. Be a nobody. And then the things started coming up mine. You know, I had my Bible passages, they came to mind and they kept sticking to my mind, They just kept coming back and back and back and back and back. And my wife even went as far as wanting to help me with things, help me with stuff because she knows these she says these videos are important because these videos are going to help people. That's what she tells me. These videos are going to help people. You need to record them. They're important. Um but that's an example for me. You see, the devil will try to get in your way. He will, and he'll distract you and stop you from doing whatever it is you need to do to glorify God. I'm sorry. He will stop you from doing that, you know. And see, with the passages that I read, Jesus, they were trying to treat Jesus like a nobody because they didn't understand. And we do that nowadays as people. We do that because if somebody tells us something, it could be the truth. But we won't believe them because we wasn't there. We didn't see it. We judge people by what we see and what we hear. This person might have 5 people. Hey, look, we were with this person. He didn't do this, but you got 20 people saying this is what happened. A lot of people to believe the majority. And that's the issue that we have nowadays. And it's the same thing back then. If you have people of importance saying that this isn't true, and you have people that aren't so important saying that it is, the people of importance is going to be the ones that's believed first. You know, and the Bible tells us not to judge. You know, and I'm gonna get real with you. You know, a lot of people won't talk about the Bible. They won't teach about the Bible because they're afraid. You got 25 people over here saying, "Oh, what he's saying about that Bible, that's not true." And you got only a few people over here. Yeah, that's what the Bible says. That these people over here. Well, we didn't see this Bible written. We don't know that any of this is true, and they struggle with it. Then that makes other people, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. It's I can't get these people to believe. You know, it's not our job to get these people to believe. It's our job to bring them the word. Whether they believe, that's on them. See, I'm about to wrap this video up, and I'm gonna leave y'all with something that I believe in, and it's true. When I started these videos, look, when I started these videos, I was my own worst enemy. When I wanted to do these videos, not when I was thinking about doing them, I was my own worst enemy. I was my own worst enemy. Devil would come there. Oh, you a nobody. You can't. No. People aren't going to believe you. People are going to see your videos and they just going to scroll right by. You know what? I don't care if 100 people scroll by. If one person sees it, then it did its job. Look, I would rather be a nobody walking with God and teaching his word than be a somebody walking with the devil, sinning, destroying my soul. I'm going to say that again. And I put that in my notes because I didn't want to forget it. I would rather be a nobody walking with God and teaching his word than be a somebody partying with the devil, destroying my soul. I would rather people walk around telling me I'm a nobody than trying to be what they consider a somebody, partying with the devil and destroying my soul. Look, guys, I'm going to leave y'all with that. Y'all think on that. I would rather be a nobody walking with God and teaching his word than be a somebody partying with the devil, destroying my soul. Give that a little bit of thought. Clean it up right here. I love you guys. Y'all need prayer. My email will be in the description. I'm going to be adding a Facebook page also. Um, y'all like, share, give me a thumbs up, leave comments. Please leave comments. I love comments. And subscribe to my channel if y'all want to see more. Thank y'all. Love y'all. God bless.